Hi, everyone. My name is Angeli Grantham. I'm curator of statewide services at the Alaska State Museum in Juneau, and I am also the program director of the Preparing Alaska's Cultural Organizations for Emergencies program, or PACO as we call it. PACO is brought to you by a large grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities. So we're very grateful to the NEH for funding us up here in Alaska. And today, this webinar is going to serve as an orientation to the PACO course. I'm going to share my screen here and start sharing slides. So one moment. Okay. So during this webinar, I'm going to explain kind of the large picture of the PACO program, all the different components that are coming together in PACO. We're going to talk about the course, the online course specifically, including the structure and the expectations. And then we're also going to talk about navigating the course website. I'll point out some different features. And I realize I'm missing a bullet point, and that is I'm going to provide sort of another a roadmap of sorts, so that you will have an idea about how emergency planning takes place and what you can expect over the next couple of months as you're doing your plan. So the PACO program goals are quite lofty, but I believe that we are already successful in achieving them after we've gone through our first cohort already, and things went quite well with that. We're enthusiastic to continue with all of you in cohort B. So with PACO, we're going to be working to enhance, as you can see, the capacity, knowledge, and skills of Alaska's collecting institutions so that we can prepare for and respond to emergencies. We're really focused on boosting the number of emergency preparedness and disaster response plans at Alaska's collecting institutions. And we also are focused on building relationships around preparedness and response. And these relationships take place within the PACO cohorts, within the PACO program, with your institution and other institutions, with emergency responders, emergency managers, and others. So it's really building a matrix of relationships around preparedness and response so that we're all more resilient to disasters moving forward. So this is how we plan to accomplish these goals. We are, of course, doing this online course, this cohort-based program. We're also doing a lot to work on building relationships, and we will be doing in-person workshops to actually practice what we've learned about. So I'll start with the workshops. These workshops are a really specialized training opportunity. They're based on curriculum developed by paper conservator Danya Khan, who is also a program advisor, one of the presenters that you'll meet, and she will be at all of the workshops. We will be at the fire training centers at all of throughout Alaska. So there are 3. There's one in Juneau, there's one in Fairbanks, there's one in Anchorage. So we will have workshops at each of those fire training centers. Where we will go, we're going to set up one of the rooms in the fire training center as if it's a collection storage with a variety of library, archival, and museum materials, fake sort of collections materials. And then we're going to actually have the fire team started on fire. They will then fight the fire, and it will be up to us to deploy what we have learned to salvage the collection. So we'll be using the incident command system to manage our response. We'll be learning from conservators about how to properly handle and salvage different sorts of collections materials. We'll be doing damage assessments, and then we'll be organizing and salvaging the collection. So over this 3-day workshop, you will have hands-on training in really how to document a disaster and how to salvage your collection in case something like this ever does happen. So again, a rare training opportunity. I don't know that something like this has happened in Alaska before. And it is available to any person in the PACO program that turns in an emergency plan to us. There's funding available for travel, including per diem and accommodations, thanks to NEH again. So we're looking forward to those workshops and all that we're going to learn. So another focus is on relationships, and I'll take this opportunity to mention the coaches for the program. Each institution is assigned a coach, and the coaches are CJ, Cynthia Jones, Ellen Carley, who's a conservator at the Alaska State Museum. Jared Woody, who goes by Woody. He's the state exercise manager for the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Tiffany Peltier is the grants manager at DHSEM, and me, Angeli Grantham. I'm also a coach for this program. So coaches are here to support your plan development and to support your own learning goals for the PACO program. You will schedule monthly meetings with your coach from now at the beginning of the program through the end of the online course. Your coaches are available beyond that time to meet with you as well. So as you continue to refine your emergency plan moving forward, please feel free to connect with your coach. All of us have different experiences related to emergency management and disaster response, different fields of expertise, and we're all looking forward to connecting with you and helping you on your preparedness learning journeys. As questions arise, please do funnel your questions to your assigned coach. And if you have problems though with like the website, or you have specific questions about the program itself, give those questions to me. I'm the one that can fix the URL if something is broken, or give you more information about the workshops that's going to happen and the bigger picture sort of components of the PACO program. We have designed this program to be a kind of cohort style because we're really interested in how you can build relationships with others in the cultural sector in Alaska, recognizing that there's a lot of support and knowledge that exists within the field prior to us doing the PACO program, and that will persist after the PACO program is done. So we want to build relationships among people in the field around emergency response and preparedness. And this includes those who are in cohort A, and this will include cohort B and cohort C. So by the end of this program, we'll have a robust network of alumni. It also is about forming relationships with emergency responders and managers in your community and your region. These are first responders, those who will be on scene when you need them. It's important for you to be in touch with them before there's an emergency. So they're familiar with your facilities, they know who to contact, they understand your own institutional practices. These all will really help for you to have a more successful response and recovery. So really, relationships is a big focus of the program. And then we have the online course itself, which you are now starting today. So at the top, you see the dates of the course. We are running August 25th through December 15th. You see there's that random February 9th. That's our opportunity to connect after your coaches have had an opportunity to review your draft emergency plans. It's our last sort of check-in together as a cohort where we talk about where we are in our planning and how we plan to kind of institute changes to improve preparedness long-term for our institutions. We will be meeting every week for the PACO program for a live in-person via Zoom sort of interactive conversations. We have discussion sections, which are every other Wednesday at 10 a.m. Attendance is required at discussion section, and we use the class discussions often to have exercises and activities. We break into small groups. We talk about emergency situations and how we should respond. It's a really good opportunity to build relationships and to learn from one another. On the weeks that we don't have a discussion, we have office hours at the same time, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Attendance is optional at office hours, but they are encouraged. At office hours, we come together and we talk about challenges that we're facing, questions that we have about emergency planning, sharing our knowledge and experiences. So it's another opportunity to build your awareness and your knowledge about emergency preparedness and troubleshoot with the group. So the online course features this orientation and then 8 modules. And these modules really are about the comprehensive emergency management program. You can see that schematic on the side there. That really is a comprehensive emergency management program. And as you can see, this program about preparedness, it's all about starting with prevention, moving on to being prepared, having responses in place, knowing about recovery, and then how to mitigate so that you're better able to respond next time around. So we will be discussing this entire continuum during the online course. You'll have a chance to learn about all of it. But the course in general is really focused on preparedness more than anything. It will be at the workshop, the live burn activity that we practice response and recovery. So the course itself will focus on this whole continuum of a comprehensive emergency management program, but it also specifically guides you through creating or updating your own emergency preparedness and disaster response plan. The course, you can see the URL right there. You will be given a password so you can access the course. And please do also join the listserv, which you can see below. And the listserv is a way to communicate with one another, share resources, share questions. Those who are in cohort A are also a part of the listserv. So we will have that expanding network will continue to be connected through the PACO listserv. So now I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to do a sort of exploration of the website, point some things out. Sorry about this, taking me a bit to find it. There it is. So here you see the PACO online course. Looks like I need to change the header, still says cohort A there. So when you join the course and sign in, you'll see there's always announcements at the top. There's a calendar which shows our class schedule. You're able to click on these links and that will bring you to the Zoom registration page so that you register for the appropriate Zoom meeting. Please note that there are 2 Zoom meeting series. There's one for discussion section and there's one for office hours. We did that so you'd be able to distinguish them in your calendar. So this is the sort of landing page. This is often where we'll have course evaluation stored as well. So then we have the different modules, and the modules will be published 2 weeks prior to the discussion section pertaining to that module. Here is module 1, and as you can see, there are tabs across the top. It includes dates. This is when we're having office hours and discussion section, what the learning outcomes are for this module. It includes the required reading for the module, which has been written by CJ, and it'll include a link to whatever webinars there are for that module, including a webinar transcript for those who maybe would prefer to read it than watch it. There's also an assignment tab. This includes all of the things that we're asking that you do, and each of these items contributes to the development of your disaster plan. So these aren't just like willy-nilly turn in this, and this sort of assignments. These are things that are laying the foundation and later will help you to refine your plan. And then each module has a resources tab. And these resources are additional information that you might find helpful for your learning and your plan development. It is not required to look at any of the resources. These are just here for you to for you to learn more and to see examples and all of that. So each of the modules will have the same sort of tabs at the top. And we ask that before discussion section, please have read the introduction, watched the webinar, and gotten started on the assignments. If you're able to do that, you'll be caught up to speed for the class and you'll know exactly what we're talking about when we go through and do our class exercises. I also want to show you this templates tab. So the templates tab, as it sounds, these are all templates that you can use as you develop your plan. These are documents that you can download and you should change to make sense for your institution and your situation. But here you see, these are all response guidelines for different sort of emergencies that can transpire. These are templates for your pocket response plan, some charts for the incident command system. We'll have other templates available for you. So these are for you to use as you develop your plan. And then there's a tab, participants, coaches, instructors. So here, there's little bios about everyone in the program. Uh-oh, funny things are happening with these photos. So anyways, your photos and bios will be up here shortly, but here you can see all of the cohort A bios and information, as well as a spreadsheet with their contact information. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go back to the slides. Okay. So, as you've heard, the main assignment of this, and really the reason that you're in this class, aside from growing awareness and connections and knowledge, is to develop or refine that emergency plan. So your draft plans are due to your coaches on January 18th. Feel free to turn them in beforehand. And what we're going to do once we get your draft plan, give us whatever you've developed, we will review it, we'll offer input and feedback, and then we're going to give all this back to you. You then have the opportunity to refine it, to continue to add to it. And we ask that you surrender to your coaches your final plan by June 13th, 2022. And we will, again, get that back to you. Planning, of course, is an iterative process. You will be, even after we give it the final stamp of approval, you will be needing to change your plan as new staff come on board, new volunteers, as things in your facility change. So it's always a changing sort of plan that should be reviewed annually at least. But in the meantime, you can feel really good in June 13th, 2022, when you hand in your final emergency plan to your coaches. So what should be in these emergency preparedness and disaster response plans? We are asking that your plans include all of these bullet points, and these are the things that are required for accredited museums according to the American Alliance of Museums. And we selected this because these are all things that libraries and archives need as well. Even though this is specifically AAM accreditation standards, these are components that all collecting institutions need to have in their plans. And so what you'll need are contact lists, you'll need floor plans and evacuation routes and assembly areas. You're going to need preparedness and response plans for the disasters that are relevant to your area. You're going to need information all about protecting, evacuating, and recovering your collections. You're going to need to assign responsibilities during an emergency, and your plan will need to address the needs of your staff, your visitors, your facilities, and your collections. So now I'm going to move on to talk about how this will happen during the course. How do these components come together to create this plan? But first, I want to show you this little schematic here. The plan is but one part of preparedness, right? A lot of what we do in this course is building your preparedness, and then those preparedness activities are refined and then put into your plan. So the way that I like to think about this is this relationship between preparedness and your plan. It's kind of like writing a really big grant proposal. You first spend time conducting research to better understand the problem that your grant is going to solve. You identify the people that you might want to hire and the goods that you might want to buy. You connect with potential partners to see what they might want to offer to the grant project, and you secure their commitments so that when the funding comes through, they know that they have a part to play in the project. You refine your objectives and understand what role each member of your team might play in the grant program. And then after you've done all that work, you actually start writing the proposal, right? This is like emergency plan development process in many ways. There's a lot of things that happen that don't necessarily end up in the plan, but they're essential for the plan's development. And once it's written, they're essential for successfully deploying the plan when an emergency arises. So we're going to talk about this development process so you can get a sense as to what's coming in PACO and how it's going to contribute to your plan. And I'm going to be referring back to those qualities that are required in each of your plans as we go through, so you can understand how this fits into the larger plan development. So as you're planning, you're going to hear CJ over and over again repeat: a maximum of emergency response is that people come first. People are the most important thing in your emergency response. Collections are after people always. Similarly, in your planning process, it's all about the people initially. It's about determining who is on your planning team, who within your organization is going to help as you develop your plan and build preparedness as part of your institutional culture. You're then also going to figure out who's on your response team. Who are the people that you will call when there's an emergency, who will help with your response and recovery? These people should know that they're on your list, by the way, because otherwise they may not show up. And this again is about relationships with first responders. So you build the relationships with those state troopers, those firefighters, those police, the emergency managers in your community. So they know about your facility, they know about what you do, and they know about the special needs of collecting institutions. So as part of this people planning and organizing, you will be creating a robust contact list that includes contacts for all of these people and all the different organizations and businesses too that you might need to connect with in case there's an emergency of any type. So this includes, staff and first responders, obviously, but also includes entities like the plumber or the electrician or the guy who repairs your boiler and the insurance company. So this broad list of contacts. And this, of course, is your contact list, one of the required elements. All of this contact information will go into the pocket response plan that you'll be developing. So this is one of the templates that you can find on the website. Once you have the information, you're able to plug it in, fold it up into a little wallet size, little handy thing that you give to your staff and volunteers. So everyone has an emergency contact list and response procedures anytime, even if they're not at the facility. So floor plans are another essential part of emergency planning and a good place to start now, I'd say. See if you have a floor plan already. It doesn't need to be like to scale. It can be just a drawing that really does correlate to your building. And you'll want a master floor plan because you're going to be having different floor plans you'll add things to. CJ will talk a lot about this. So on the floor plans, you're going to need to mark the emergency systems. And when I say emergency systems, that includes things like the fire alarms and the fire extinguishers and the fire suppression systems and the security cameras and the first aid kits and the AEDs and all of those things. You'll have floor plans that show where your emergency supplies are located, like your PPE and the mops and all of that. You'll have floor plans that show your collections priorities so that first responders and staff know where to locate the things that are most important in your collection so that they can be easily located and evacuated if necessary. And you'll also need to include evacuation and muster routes so that your staff and volunteers know how to evacuate your building so that no one is left behind. And also need to know where to bring them to. And then clearly this is meeting that qualification of having floor plans. The incident command system is another people-based organizational tactic, and ICS is really the model that we use for assigning roles during an emergency. And it is really handy because it assures that all of the roles and actions will contribute to successful recovery. And ICS really does give a framework for assigning tasks and for growing and for shrinking response teams as a need arises. And it excels at making what seems a chaotic situation into something that's legible and manageable. So using ICS, your plan will dictate who does what in an emergency, and thus you're able to achieve this other qualification of an emergency plan, responsibilities during an emergency. ICS does that. So now we're going to move on to the risks and the hazards that you're going to be identifying as part of your emergency planning process. The risk assessment process includes a thorough examination of your facility to identify risks. It also includes an environmental scan and a consideration of the people hazards. So let's think about facilities first. You will really go through your facility thoroughly, and you're going to identify what are the risks that you find. For example, trees with branches over your roof, an old toilet that might be located directly above your collection storage. Maybe there are blind spots that your security camera doesn't get to. Maybe there are uneven steps that people usually trip over. These are the things that are important for your awareness and also for you to go back and to fix and mitigate over time. Some of the things that you find, you'll be able to check off your list with just a single action. For example, you trim the branches over your roof. Other things that you notice will need to be worked into your emergency plan, like let's say you have single pane sash windows that could be broken in a windstorm. In your plan, you're going to want to indicate that they need to be secured by shutting the shutters or putting up plywood when there's high wind advisories. Thinking about the environmental hazards, those are things that relate to your location. So you're likely in an earthquake zone because this is Alaska. Other environmental hazards are like fires and floods, volcanic eruptions, severe weather, power outages. What you do is you'll research all the hazards that exist in your region, and then you'll assess the likelihood of those events happening at your facility. And then you're going to go through and identify what's the most likely, and which are we going to focus on in our planning. So earthquakes, high likelihood. Tornado, very low likelihood. You don't include tornado in your plan, right? Power outage due to high winds, very high likelihood. Need something about power outages in most every plan in Alaska. And then you think about the people hazards. Medical incidents happen in all of our institutions. So do bomb threats, those happen, as do disruptive patrons and things like that. So this, of course, is creating the preparedness and response plans for all relevant threats. And these, once you identify what these threats are or hazards are for your institution, you will create a handy quick guide. So really the result of this risk assessment process are twofold. You have this quick guide, which you can see a picture on the right. You can see how it's a flip chart. So the name of the hazard is at the bottom, and you flip to that page and you see instructions for what to do. If there's a tsunami warning, for example, it'll say evacuate the building, lock the door, go to high ground, things like that. So you'll develop that for your institution, and then you'll put these flip charts at the desks of your staff, and you'll put them in visible places throughout your facility. Super handy things. You will then use those same instructions and put them into your main emergency preparedness and disaster plan. And there'll be more detailed instructions in the plan itself. For example, it will dictate how to prepare for hazards that you have pre-warning of, like hurricane force winds. And it includes these details about how you can protect your facility and collections from such events. So collections, protection, and recovery. That's the thing that makes us special, right? I mean, we're special for all sorts of reasons, but it's what we are stewards of that really makes us special as collecting institutions. It's our book collections, our rare books, our archives, our museum objects, all of this. So what you need to do is identify, of all the things in your collection, what are most important? What are your collection priorities? These are the materials that you would evacuate first. They're the things that you would check on following a disaster first. And they're the things that the most effort will go towards recovering in case there is some sort of disaster. You're then going to come up with a plan that details what to do if your collection is affected by a disaster. There's a lot of language that we can give you for this, so you won't be doing this all from scratch, don't worry. The plan includes elements that are such as the incident command system, so you know who is responsible for doing what with collections recovery. The plan includes information about how to move damaged collections, where the collections might be stored during the recovery process, and information about handling and treating damaged collections materials. And again, a lot of this can be boilerplate language, especially how to handle the collections materials. So don't get overwhelmed by this. You'll have a lot of examples to use. The plan will also address continuity of operations. That is, how can you continue to deliver services, pay your staff, and maintain operations in the event of some sort of big disaster? So that is the sort of big picture of how everything will come together. It's focusing on the people, getting the contacts, understanding how you are going to organize people if an emergency happens. It's identifying the risks in your institution, knowing which ones you need to prioritize to create your quick guide flip chart, and then putting those into your plan. It's identifying your collections priorities, coming up with procedures to protect your collection, and then recover it if there is a disaster. It includes the floor plans and the evacuation routes. And really, that's the bulk of it. So as the modules proceed, we'll be talking about this whole comprehensive emergency management program, but then also all of these elements that come together to create your emergency plan. Please reach out at any time if you have questions. You'll be hearing from me a lot over the next months, and I really look forward to getting to know all of you. Thanks for tuning in today.